Alright, I hope I'm live. I should be anyway. So let me know in the chat if you can see me. There's going to be a bit of a delay. I think it's like 5 or 10 seconds. Alright, so someone can see me. Can you hear me fine too? I need to make sure that's working. Okay, and this is what we're going to be watching the stream on, so let me make sure that... Let me know if the volume on that is too high or low.
Earlier today, my colleague, with all due respect, Mark Halpern, spoke to Bruce LaBelle, Executive Director of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump. Mark started by asking him what it would look like if Donald Trump executed his game plan this evening.
We're going to win. It's going to be large. Mr. Trump is going to bring that same fire, that same enthusiasm.
Okay. Apparently he thinks that they're going to win, which will be interesting to see how they think that's going to work. But the debate is going to start in 20 minutes, and I thought that we'd have a little discussion before that. Today's debate is supposed to be, anyway, it's supposed to be on the debt and entitlement programs, so like Social Security, Medicare, and welfare and stuff like that. It should be on immigration, which should be interesting because Donald Trump has not mentioned the wall since the debates, really since the primaries ended. And it'd be interesting to see if that's still his, stance, because I haven't heard anything about the wall in a long time. They're going to talk about the Supreme Court and the empty seat on there, which should have been filled already, but I'm sure they'll address that too. And then they're going to talk about Syria and Iran if they get to it. I have a feeling, though, it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be more the sex abuse allegations against Trump, and then him firing back with Bill Clinton and his allegations, which, by the way, and now I'm going to start getting fired up, okay? By the way, Bill Clinton is not running for president. And I would be saying this no matter which side I was on. Bill Clinton is not running for president. Donald Trump is running for president, so his actions and his words matter. Bill Clinton is a former president, and he's the husband of the person who is running, but that's like going to a job interview, and instead of them doing a background check on you, they do it on your husband or your spouse. And we wouldn't do that. This is one of those things that I hate that I have to say. This campaign is really turning me into one of those social justice warriors. I never in a million years thought I would say this word or this sentence. If she was a man, we wouldn't even be bringing this up. If she were a man, what her spouse had done wouldn't even be an issue, but it is. So that's unfortunate, and I don't think it's fair. I will be also, while we're watching the debate, I'll have the Twitter feed down on the side over here, and I'll be tweeting occasionally. If you want to follow me on Twitter, that would be this right here, @KnowingBetterYT. You can follow me on Facebook and Reddit and all that fun stuff too. But I will be tweeting occasionally, and I'll mute my mic so you don't hear me typing. During the debate, if there's something I think is worthy of expanding on a little bit more, I'll pause it and we'll discuss it. Or if I need to clarify something that was said, I have a whole list of notes that I think things that will be said, so I'm already prepared. If you're here for just the straight up debate, you're in the wrong place, right? There's plenty of places you can just watch the stream without me interjecting, but you're here because it says knowing better is full commentary. So you're here for my full commentary. I'm not going to be asking you for money or anything like that. All of that stuff is around if you want. I do have a poll, actually. It's up there. If you could let me know how you found this, whether it was because you're a subscriber of mine, a friend of mine, Snaggle sent you here, or you found me on Twitter or YouTube. I just want to know how you got here. So, aside from that, some things that have come up recently. Actually, I guess it's not so recent anymore, but I feel this is a very shallow move on Trump's part. Last debate, he had all of the women that had accused Bill Clinton of sexual assault or other allegations in the audience. And I felt like that was a pretty shallow political move, and a pretty obvious one at that. I think most people would agree. That was a little weird. Even if you're a Republican, like, why would you stack the audience full of people who accused the competitor's spouse of something 20 years ago? It's weird. I thought it was weird. This time, though, Mr. Trump has decided to bring in Obama's half-brother, who is a Trump supporter, so he will be in the audience for this debate, which I find very strange. And again, I've never thought this would come out of my mouth. If Obama wasn't black, this wouldn't be an issue. If he was just a regular old white guy, why would his half-brother be in the audience? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But they're bringing him in anyway as a political stunt. I think it's stupid. I think it's shallow. But then again, I think a lot of the things that Trump has been saying lately is stupid and shallow. If it's not obvious by now who I support, I'm still not going to say it out loud. You'll just have to figure it out. But because of Casey Neistat, if you're not a big YouTube follower, he's called out all the YouTubers to make videos endorsing people. I'm not going to do that directly. This is the closest that I'll get. I put out my feelings on third parties on Monday. I definitely recommend you check out that video if you haven't already. But I won't just flat out say this is who I'm voting for. But this is what I'll do. I will help you through the debate. And hopefully you'll learn something more than if you had just watched it on your own. But as to what Trump has been saying lately, especially that locker room talk stuff, I have to say that is extremely... I'll answer that in a second, Poe. That is extremely strange and unheard of to me. I was in the military for 7 years. I was in high school sports. I was in plenty of locker rooms. Did we talk about sex when we were in the company of just guys? Of course we did. Did we talk about specific sexual encounters with our spouses or girlfriends? Of course we did. Did we ever say anything to the effect of, I just started kissing her because I couldn't control myself, and then I just grabbed her by the genitals? Absolutely not. The conversation would have ended right then and there. A dead silence would have fallen over the barracks, and whoever said that would soon find themselves without friends. But Teflon Don, as I found out is his name now, can say whatever the heck he wants, and it seems to be fine. What bothers me, though, are the men who say that that's just normal talk, because I don't know what kind of locker rooms they're hanging out in, but they're not indicative of the ones I have. And the women who now think that that's what men talk about, because we totally don't talk like that. Never once would something like that. I would never brag about that, and I'm sure most of my audience members would agree. Yes, we've had some pretty vulgar conversations, but they are always about consensual things. So him talking about that is just awful. And then the recent videos of him telling a 10-year-old girl that he's going to be dating her in 10 years, or maybe she wasn't 10 years old, but she was a little girl, that he'll be dating her in 10 years. That it's just disgusting. And of course, all of the other things. I will say that I do find it odd um, that there's all these people coming out with allegations against Trump now. This isn't really devil's advocate, although it kind of is. It does make me wonder why did they wait so long? Why did they wait until now to bring this up? Why didn't they say it before? Maybe it's because they feel safe to do it now. But the timing of it is a little suspect. Poe the Wonder Cat had a question. By the way, Poe the Wonder Cat is the one who does all of my channel art. So my icon, most of the cartoons and stuff in all my videos, it's all him. He asked, why do candidates get a say in who is in the audience? Each party gets tickets to give out to whoever they want. So it's just like at the Super Bowl, the teams get, I don't know, not courtside seats. What is it? It's not courtside. Anyway, you know what I mean, okay? They get tickets to hand out to whoever they want, you know, whether they be party VIPs or whatnot. Last time they decided to give it to Paula Jones and company. This time they decided to find Obama's half-brother, who happens to be a Trump supporter. And it's a political stunt. It's quite strange, I think. Yeah. Usually it's, you know, millionaires you've never heard of, but now they're using it for political purpose, which I think is strange. I mean, if anything was going to get to Hillary, it would have been having Paula Jones and I don't know any of the other ones' names in the front row. That would have gotten to her. It totally didn't. So I don't know why Obama's brother being there, he thinks is going to make some sort of difference and shake her up. But we'll see, you know. Really, at this point, the latest polling numbers, Clinton is at 47, Trump is at 38, so Clinton has a 9-point lead. Depending on what poll you look at, sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 11, but Clinton is always in the lead. Mr. Johnson is polling at around 8%, and Stein is at 3%. Now, if you watched my third-party voting video that I put out a few days ago, if a third party gets more than 5% of the national vote, they become eligible for federal funding or public funding for their campaigns in the next election cycle. So if Johnson holds it where he is, he will get that funding. I did get a question on that video of how many states does he need to win in order to screw up the election and send it to the House of Representatives, and the answer is 1. He could get 1 state and it could end up having to go to the House of Representatives. The least populous state, Wyoming, and DC, all the ones that have 3 electoral votes, if he wins any of those, if he gets 3 electoral votes, which makes Clinton get 268 and Trump 269, neither of them get their 270, and it goes to the House of Representatives, where they could pick Johnson, and that would be very strange. They could do it. It's within the rules that they're allowed to do it, but it would be very strange for them to pick someone who got such a minuscule amount of the vote. But all it would take is 1 state, if it was the right state. Now, odds are that won't happen. It's happened once in the past, though, so it's not impossible. So yeah, I've gotten a lot of comments on that video. Some people saying, "Thank you, you stopped me from making a horrible decision." That wasn't my point. The point of that video was, if you support Johnson, vote Johnson. If you support Stein, vote Stein. By all means, that's within your right, do it. But if you're just voting for Johnson because you hate Hillary and Trump, don't, because you could be causing something far worse. I'd almost rather you didn't vote, and I hate to say that because it's one of those things I believe in my heart. You should vote your conscience, and hopefully your conscience isn't anybody but these guys. Like, that's the worst way to go about it. It should be, I want to vote for this person. I believe in this person. So do that, but not anyone but this person or this person, because you could put the vote in the House of Representatives, the most hated Congress this country has ever seen, would choose who the president is. And you know what? The Senate chooses who the vice president is. So we could actually end up with a president from one party and a vice president from another party, which would be very strange. Very unlikely, but still within the rules, so technically possible. So yeah, let me know in the comments here. We have about 5 minutes or so if you have any questions about what you think might come up, or what you think, or what I want to see. That's what it's there for. I do not know how many people we have viewing right now, or any of that stuff. I'm not looking at that. I'm just watching myself and the debate and the chat. So yeah. Now I'm seeing some names in the chat here of people that used to be super common commentators on my videos, like Brain Dead. Whatever happened to Brain Dead? Like, you disappeared there for a while. And who else was there that I saw? Chicken Train is new, I know that. Ernest, I didn't think you would be awake. Let's see, what do we have on the debate? Yes, I will be sending out those, like, please join us. In fact, let me do another one just to spam it. If you guys have anyone or know anyone that, oh, that was a dumb tweet, I don't actually link anything, that you'd like to have come in here, you know, the more exposure the better, right? So I am expecting, here's one thing, I am expecting Donald Trump to, there's a good one. First of all, I'll address that. A shot. I am expecting Donald Trump to say that this is rigged, even though it's being moderated by Chris Wallace of Fox News, so it'll be interesting to see how hard he is on Trump, how hard he is on Hillary, and if Trump will still play the victim card of how this is rigged. It'll be interesting to see that, because I think he'd be hard pressed to try and get that message across. As for the cocaine thing, that's another thing I wanted to bring up and I didn't write down. After the last debate, Carrie Fisher, the person who plays Princess Leia, who many of you probably don't know this, but during the 80s and 90s, she went through a huge cocaine habit, and it was like, she was like the Lindsay Lohan of the 80s and 90s, just like Drew Barrymore, kind of. After Star Wars, she went deep into cocaine. And after the second debate, she said, Donald Trump's sniffing and his behavior is definitely, or absolutely, was her word, a cocaine issue. Because you can notice he's sniffing through the first 30 minutes, and then he stops, and then he just tanks. For the first 30 minutes of the debate, he's just going off topic, what do you have to say about these sexual allegations? ISIS, terrorism, get the Mexicans out. And then 30 minutes after, boom, he's just done, and he's like totally sedated, which is what happens when you're on cocaine, or so I've heard. Let's see here. We've got some comments going. More about you. All right, Dutch. I put out a video a few days ago on third-party voting, specifically on the spoiler effect of third-party voting. I definitely recommend you watch that, and I recommend you watch John Oliver. He did a really good segment on Sunday about Johnson and Stein, and how they are not perfect, and this isn't a choice between the lesser of two evils, it's the lesser of four evils. So I definitely recommend that you check out my video, of course, and John Oliver's video, because they are very good, and they will make you think twice about both especially Johnson. Johnson is, Johnson has some issues. I said it in my video before, but he was a Republican governor for 12 years. He ran for president as a Republican twice. He switched parties during that second election to be libertarian because he lost the primary. And now he's running libertarian. And his stances on issues, he's pro-weed, anti-abortion, anti-immigration. So really, people are just like, pro-weed, vote. You really have to look at the rest of him. I had a I side with poll in that last video that I definitely recommend you should take. Find out who it is that you stand with. But yeah, I really, you should look into these people before you vote for them. Don't just vote for them because you don't like Clinton or Trump. In the beginning, I wanted Johnson to be in the debate, because then he would automatically pull some bigger numbers just by virtue of being there. But I think his numbers might be even worse if he were in the debates, because he's had some Sarah Palin moments where he doesn't know what Aleppo is. If you don't know, Aleppo is where most of the fighting in Syria is going on. It's fine if you don't know that because you're a person. He's running for president. He couldn't name any foreign leader. I mean, everyone should at least know Putin. Come on. That's an easy one. That's a gimme. He could have even said Prince William or anything. Anything would have been a better answer than, So, please look into Johnson before you vote for him. Don't vote for him just because, whatever. Okay? So yeah, let me scroll back up through the content. As for Pikachu, where you said, why aren't third-party candidates shown in the media more? They are given equal time. They're required to get equal time. They just do it separately. So when they are, they're doing the debate, the Republican versus Democrat debate, the next morning it'll be a Green Party town hall, and they get the same amount of time. They're required by law to get equal time. They don't have to be on the same stage at the same time, they just have to have equal time. Of course, they usually shove it at like 9 a.m. where no one's watching, but that's what they do. So once the debate starts here, I will unmute that, and we'll get rolling. But first, I need a... Yeah, Dutch. There was a Green Party town hall not that long ago. Just Jill Stein, um, and she did rather poorly during it. I definitely, again, recommend you watch the John Oliver segment of hers because it was quite telling. She also wants to just cancel all student debt, but that, again, that's one of those, hey, millennials, I'm on your side deals, and it's not. You can't just cancel student debt, period, done. That's not how it works. Um, Even when we bailed out the banks had to pay us back. They didn't just, it wasn't just free money. Um, so she's pandering, which is not a good idea, not a good way to go about it, really.
But the only possible way that it could not be over is if he gave a performance as
Still not started yet. How is the stream looking to you guys? Just out of curiosity. Okay, because YouTube is yelling at me that it's not getting enough, blah blah. But if you guys are telling me it's good, then I'm just gonna assume it's good.
between substance and policy questions, but also letting the two candidates talk about things like WikiLeaks, perhaps the accusations against Donald Trump that have dominated the headlines and are part of the carnival, festival, circus of American presidential politics.
I mean, as we know, it should be worth noting that at that last debate, we know now that Donald Trump wanted to bring the four Clinton accusers into the debate hall as his guests and put them in a place where Bill Clinton would have to walk past them. So part of the reason why the Clinton campaign wanted to change the rules this time was to avoid any further hijinks on Trump's part. And apparently with some good reason, although he's not done anything as explosive as bringing those four ladies with him from last time. This time, he does have, Sarah Palin here, and he does have Barack Obama's half-brother. I think that's a really strange choice. I'm not sure why that would get in Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton's head, but there's some reason for them to be a little worried about things that Trump might try here tonight.
Yeah. So debate starting in less than 2 minutes. It'll be a 90-minute session, perhaps go over a bit as they do on occasion. Chris Wallace is the sole moderator for the 90 minutes. He's laid out a variety of topics, but the candidates have a fair amount of leeway to bring up what they'd like to bring up in responding. John and I will be back with our colleagues after the debate, post-game show, and of course there'll be a lot of activity behind us here in the spin room. Donald Trump came into the spin room after the first debate, not after the second debate. No clear word yet on whether he'll come in tonight. Governor Sarah Palin, who's here on his behalf, or other leading figures from both campaigns. But we'll be back after the debate with full wrap-up analysis and hopefully some reaction from the campaigns on what is the final debate of the series of three.
Fascinating to me. One big topic that has not been addressed in either of the first two debates that we will certainly hear about tonight, because Chris Wallace has said we will, immigration, an issue that had meant as much to Donald Trump's nomination as any other single issue. We've not had anything about it in the first two debates. I'll be interested to see here that just a matter of substance.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to hear that debate happen tonight.
Yeah, I mean, both candidates feel strongly about it. They've got totally different views on the topic, and it will be interesting. And I think Chris Wallace has had the benefit of watching the first three debates, the two presidential and one vice presidential, and thinking about not just what wasn't covered, but maybe where the candidates are vulnerable to more probing questions. And presumably, Donald Trump will improve. We'll see. A guy who's never debated before this run for president, never run for office. So the final presidential debate is about to begin here in Las Vegas. John and I.
So as I said, I will be pausing it throughout if there's something that needs to be addressed, or I see things in the chat like people are asking what the heck does this mean. But other than that, here we go.
of Fox News, and I welcome you to the third and final of the 2016 presidential debates between Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Donald J. Trump. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments with 2-minute answers to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to those rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. None of those questions has been shared with the Commission or the 2 candidates. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions so we and you can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now as we welcome the Democratic nominee for president, Secretary Clinton, and the Republican nominee for president, Mr. Trump. Secretary Clinton, Mr. Trump, welcome. Let's get right to it. The first topic is the Supreme Court. You both talked briefly about the court in the last debate, but I want to drill down on this because the next president will almost certainly have at least 1 appointment and likely or possibly 2 or 3 appointments, which means that you will, in effect, determine the balance of the court for what could be the next quarter century. First of all, where do you want to see the court take the country? And secondly, what's your view on how the Constitution should be interpreted? Do the founders' words mean what they say, or is it a living document to be applied flexibly according to changing circumstances? In this segment, Secretary Clinton, you go first. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris, and thanks to UNLV for hosting us. You know, I think when we talk about the Supreme Court, it really raises the central issue in this election, namely, what kind of country are we going to be? What kind of opportunities will we provide for our citizens? What kind of rights will Americans have? And I feel strongly that the Supreme Court needs to stand on the side of the American people, not on the side of the powerful corporations and the wealthy. For me, that means that we need a Supreme Court that will stand up on behalf of women's rights, on behalf of the rights of the LGBT community, that will stand up and say no to Citizens United, a decision that has undermined the election system in our country because of the way it permits dark, unaccountable money to come into our electoral system. I have major disagreements with my opponent about these issues and others that will be before the Supreme Court. But I feel that at this point in our country's history, it is important that we not reverse marriage equality, that we not reverse Roe v. Wade, that we stand up against Citizens United, we stand up for the rights of people in the workplace, that we stand up and basically say the Supreme Court should represent all of us. That's how I see the court, and the kind of people that I would be looking to nominate to the court would be in the great tradition of standing up to the powerful, standing up on behalf of our rights as Americans. And I look forward to having that opportunity. I would hope that the Senate would do its job and confirm the nominee that President Obama has sent to them. That's the way the Constitution fundamentally should operate. The President nominates, and then the Senate advises and consents or not, but they go forward with the process.
Secretary Clinton, thank you. Mr. Trump, same question. Where do you want to see the court take the country, and how do you believe the Constitution should be interpreted?
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you, and thank you, everybody. The Supreme Court, it's what it's all about. Our country is just so imperative that we have the right justices. Something happened recently where Justice Ginsburg made some very, very inappropriate statements toward me and toward a tremendous number of people, many, many millions of people that I represent, and she was forced to apologize, and apologize she did. But these were statements that should never, ever have been made. We need a Supreme Court that, in my opinion, is going to uphold the Second Amendment and all amendments, but the Second Amendment, which is under absolute siege. I believe if my opponent should win this race, which I truly don't think will happen, we will have a Second Amendment which will be a very, very small replica of what it is right now. But I feel that it's absolutely important that we uphold because of the fact that it is under such trauma. I feel that the justices that I am going to appoint, and I've named 20 of them, the justices that I'm going to appoint will be pro-life. They will have a conservative bent. They will be protecting the Second Amendment. They are great scholars in all cases, and they're people of tremendous respect. They will interpret the Constitution the way the founders wanted it interpreted, and I believe that's very, very important. I don't think we should have justices appointed that decide what they want to hear. It's all about the Constitution and so important, the Constitution the way it was meant to be. And those are the people that I will appoint.
Okay, I had to stop it there because there were quite a few points that needed to be addressed. Citizens United, if you don't know, is a court decision that allowed corporations to donate unlimited funds to super PACs. So corporations like Exxon or GE or Koch brothers can donate unlimited funds not to Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, but to their super PACs so that they can run for president with unlimited money and no one knows where that money is coming from. So that's what Citizens United is. I'll probably do a video on that at some point, but it's very controversial. You didn't hear Mr. Trump saying that he wants to get rid of Citizens United because it's a nice way to get dark money. The next thing was Hillary Clinton said that someone has been nominated to the Supreme Court by President Obama. I can't remember his name, someone help me out. But he's been nominated to the Supreme Court and the Senate is supposed to confirm him. They've come up with all kinds of dumb rules that have never existed in the past to not nominate him, or at least even consider him. Their job is to consider and not nominate, but approve. And they're not doing it because they're going to wait to see who the next president is, which is complete BS, not part of the Constitution. They're just doing it to do it. The next thing, Donald Trump said that the Second Amendment is under attack in our country, which is completely untrue. More guns have been sold this year than last year, than last year, than last year. More guns have been sold every year than the previous year since 2002, I believe it is. More guns have been sold under President Obama than Bush, than Clinton, than Reagan, etc. Nobody is stopping the Second Amendment, and Hillary Clinton has made no plans to want to stop the Second Amendment. So his defending the Second Amendment thing here is just appealing to the NRA, who thinks constantly that their rights to own guns are under attack when they are not.
That will feel very strongly about the Second Amendment, that will not do damage to the Second Amendment.
Well, let's pick up on another issue which divides you and the justices that whoever ends up winning this election appoints could have a dramatic effect there, and that's the issue of abortion.
Right.
Mr. Trump, you're pro-life, but I want to ask you specifically, do you want the court, including the justices that you will name, to overturn Roe v. Wade, which includes, in fact states, a woman's right to abortion?
Well, if that would happen, because I am pro-life and I will be appointing pro-life judges, I would think that that will go back to the individual states.
But I'm asking you specifically, would you like to...
If they overturned it, it'll go back to the states.
But what I'm asking you, sir, is do you want to see the court overturn? You've just said you want to see the court protect the Second Amendment. Do you want to see the court overturn Roe v. Wade?
Well, if we put another 2 or perhaps 3 justices on, that's really what's going to be, that will happen. And that'll happen automatically, in my opinion, because I am putting pro-life justices on the court. I will say this, it will go back to the states, and the states will then make a determination.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, I strongly support Roe v. Wade, which guarantees a constitutional right to a woman to make the most intimate, most difficult in many cases, decisions about her health care that one can imagine. And in this case, it's not only about Roe v. Wade. It is about what's happening right now in America. So many states are putting very stringent regulations on women that block them from exercising that choice, to the extent that they are defunding Planned Parenthood, which of course provides all kinds of cancer screenings and other benefits for women in our country. Donald has said he's in favor of defunding Planned Parenthood. He even supported shutting the government down to defund Planned Parenthood. I will defend Planned Parenthood. I will defend Roe v. Wade, and I will defend women's rights to make their own health care decisions. And we have come too far to have that turned back now. And indeed, he said women should be punished, that there should be some form of punishment for women who obtain abortions. And I could just not be more opposed to that kind of thinking.
I'm going to give you a chance to respond, but I want to ask you, Secretary Clinton, I want to explore how far you believe the right to abortion goes. You have been quoted as saying that the fetus has no constitutional rights. You also voted against a ban on late-term partial birth abortions. Why?
Because Roe v. Wade very clearly sets
Apologies, apparently my ad blocker was still turned on. I will try
that there can be regulations on abortion so long as the life and the health of the mother are taken into account. And when I voted as a senator, I did not think that that was the case. The kinds of cases that fall at the end of pregnancy are often the most heartbreaking, painful decisions for families to make. I have met with women who, toward the end of their pregnancy, get the worst news one could get, that their health is in jeopardy if they continue to carry to term, or that something terrible has happened or just been discovered about the pregnancy. I do not think the United States government should be stepping in and making those most personal of decisions. So you can regulate if you are doing so with the life and the health of the mother taken into account.
Mr. Trump, your reaction, and particularly on this issue of late-term partial birth abortion.
Well, I think it's terrible. If you go with what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb of the mother just prior to the birth of the baby. Now, you can say that that's okay, and Hillary can say that that's okay, but it's not okay with me. Because based on what she's saying and based on where she's going and where she's been, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month on the final day. And that's not acceptable.
Well, that is not.
And it's also illegal, Mr. Trump. The Supreme Court says that you can get an abortion up to the point of viability of the fetus. I don't know how many weeks in that is, but it certainly does not extend. The point of viability of the fetus is when the fetus can survive outside of the womb. So whether that's, I don't know, 6 months, fine, but a day before birth, no. That's no. That I'm pretty sure that's illegal in the entire country. So him using this language of ripping the baby out and all that stuff, that's just language used to make it sound way worse. That is not what a late-term abortion is. If the baby is fully formed and ready to come out tomorrow, that's not an abortion, that's an early birth, and definitely not within what Roe v. Wade said is okay.
A package that includes a pathway to citizenship. The question really is, why are you right and your opponent wrong? Mr. Trump, you go first in this segment. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, she wants to give amnesty, which is a disaster and very unfair to all of the people that are waiting in line for many, many years. We need strong borders. In the audience tonight, we have 4 mothers of, I mean, these are unbelievable people that I've gotten to know over a period of years whose children have been killed, brutally killed by people that came into the country illegally. You have thousands of mothers and fathers and relatives all over the country. They're coming in illegally. Drugs are pouring in through the border. We have no country if we have no border. Hillary wants to give amnesty. She wants to have open borders. The border secure, as you know, the Border Patrol agents, 16,500 plus ICE last week endorsed me. First time they...
ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and they have said repeatedly that they have not endorsed Donald Trump, and he needs to stop saying that.
Single biggest...
Sorry, I shouldn't have paused it if this was going to happen.
Wall. We need the wall. The Border Patrol, ICE, they all want the wall.
There's
we
the
stop
wall.
drugs.
Okay.
We shore up the border. One of my first acts will be to get all of the drug lords, all of the bad ones. We have some bad people in this country that have to go out. We're going to get them out. We're going to secure the border. And once the border is secured, at a later date, we'll make a determination as to the rest. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Mr. Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Secretary
Bad
Clinton.
hombres.
Basically, why are you right and Mr. Trump is wrong?
Well, as he was talking, I was thinking about a young girl I met here in Las Vegas, Carla, who was very worried that her parents might be deported because she was born in this country, but they were not. They work hard. They do everything they can to give her a good life. And you're right. I don't want to rip families apart. I don't want to be sending parents away from children. I don't want to see the deportation force that Donald has talked about in action in our country. We have 11 million undocumented people. They have 4 million American citizen children, 15 million people. He said as recently as a few weeks ago in Phoenix that every undocumented person would be subject to deportation. Now, here's what that means. It means you would have to have a massive law enforcement presence, where law enforcement officers would be going school to school, home to home, business to business, rounding up people who are undocumented. And we would then have to put them on trains, on buses to get them out of our country. I think that is an idea that is not in keeping with who we are as a nation. I think it's an idea that would rip our country apart. I have been for border security for years. I voted for border security in the United States Senate. And my comprehensive immigration reform plan, of course, includes border security. But I want to put our resources where I think they're most needed, getting rid of any violent person, anybody who should be deported, we should deport them. When it comes to the wall that Donald talks about building, he went to Mexico. He had a meeting with the Mexican president, didn't even raise it. He choked and then got into a Twitter war because the Mexican president said, we're not paying for that wall. So I think we are both a nation of immigrants and we are a nation of laws, and that we can act accordingly. And that's why I'm introducing comprehensive immigration reform within the first 100 days with a path to citizenship.
Thank you, Secretary Clinton. I want to follow up.
I think I should respond to that. First of all, I had a very good meeting with the president of Mexico, very nice man. We will be doing very much better with Mexico on trade deals, believe me. The NAFTA deal signed by her husband is one of the worst deals ever made of any kind, signed by anybody. It's a disaster. Hillary Clinton wanted the wall. Hillary Clinton fought for the wall in 2006 or thereabouts. Now, she never gets anything done, so naturally the wall wasn't built. But Hillary Clinton wanted the wall.
Well,
we are a country of laws. And by the way,
no, wait. I'd like to hear from.
But
I'd like to hear from Secretary Clinton.
I voted for border security, and there are some limited places where that was appropriate. There also is necessarily going to be new technology and how best to deploy that. But it is clear when you look at what Donald has been proposing. He started his campaign bashing immigrants, calling Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals and drug dealers, that he has a very different view about what we should do to deal with immigrants. Now, what I am also arguing is that bringing undocumented immigrants out from the shadows, putting them into the formal economy will be good, because then employers can't exploit them and undercut Americans' wages. And Donald knows a lot about this. He used undocumented labor to build the Trump Tower. He underpaid undocumented workers, and when they complained, he basically said what a lot of employers do. You complain, I'll get you deported. I want to get everybody out of the shadows, get the economy working, and not let employers like Donald exploit undocumented workers, which hurts them but also hurts American workers.
Mr. Trump.
President Obama has moved millions of people out. Nobody knows about it. Nobody talks about it. But under Obama, millions of people have been moved out of this country. They've been deported. She doesn't want to say that, but that's what's happened, and that's what's happened big league. As far as moving these people out and moving, we either have a country or we don't. We're a country of laws. We either have a border or we don't. Now, you can come back in and you can become a citizen, but it's very unfair. We have millions of people that did it the right way. They're online, they're waiting. We're going to speed up the process, big league, because it's very inefficient. But they're online and they're waiting to become citizens. Very unfair that somebody runs across the border, becomes a citizen. Under her plan, you have open borders. You would have a disaster on trade, and you will have a disaster with your open borders. But what she doesn't say is that President Obama has deported millions and millions of people just the way
Secretary
it is.
Clinton,
We will not have open borders.
Well,
that is a rank mischaracterization.
Secretary Clinton.
We will have secure borders, but we will also have reform. And this used to be a bipartisan issue. Ronald Reagan was the last president to sign immigration reform, and George W. Bush supported it as well.
Secretary Clinton, I want to clear up your position on this issue, because in a speech you gave to a Brazilian bank for which you were paid $225,000, we've learned from the WikiLeaks that you said this, and I want to quote, "My dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders." So that's the question. That's the question. Please quiet, everybody. Is that your dream, open borders?
Well, if you went on to read the rest of the sentence, I was talking about energy. You know, we trade more energy with our neighbors than we trade with the rest of the world combined. And I do want us to have an electric grid, an energy system that crosses borders. I think that will be a great benefit to us. But you are very clearly quoting from WikiLeaks, and what's really important about WikiLeaks is that the Russian government has engaged in espionage against Americans. They have hacked American websites, American accounts of private people, of institutions. Then they have given that information to WikiLeaks for the purpose of putting it on the internet. This has come from the highest levels of the Russian government, clearly from Putin himself, in an effort, as 17 of our intelligence agencies have confirmed, to influence our election. So I actually think the most important question of this evening, Chris, is finally, will Donald Trump admit and condemn that the Russians are doing this, and make it clear that he will not have the help of Putin in this election, that he rejects Russian espionage against Americans, which he actually encouraged in the past. Those are the questions we need answered. We've never had anything like this happen in any of our elections before.
That was a great pivot off the fact that she wants open borders, okay? How did we get onto Putin?
Hold on.
No.
Wait. Hold on, folks, because this is going to end up getting out of control. Let's try to keep it quiet, so for the candidates and for the American people.
So just to finish on the borders.
Yes.
She wants open borders. People are going to pour into our country. People are going to come in from Syria. She wants 550% more people than Barack Obama. And he has thousands and thousands of people. They have no idea where they come from. And you see, we are going to stop radical Islamic terrorism in this country. She won't even mention the words, and neither will President Obama. So I just want to tell you, she wants open borders. Now we can talk about Putin. I don't know Putin. He said nice things about me. If we got along well, that would be good. If Russia and the United States got along well and went after ISIS, that would be good. He has no respect for her. He has no respect for our president. And I'll tell you what, we're in very serious trouble because we have a country with tremendous numbers of nuclear warheads, 1,800, by the way, where they expanded and we didn't. 1,800 nuclear warheads, and she's playing chicken. Look, Putin, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit that the Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America, that you encouraged espionage against our people, that you are willing to spout the Putin line, sign up for his wish list, break up NATO, do whatever he wants to do, and that you continue to get help from him because he has a very clear favorite in this race. So I think that this is such an unprecedented situation. We've never had a foreign government trying to interfere in our election. We have 17 intelligence agencies, civilian and military, who have all concluded that these espionage attacks, these cyber attacks, come from the highest levels of the Kremlin. They are designed to influence our election. I find that deeply disturbing, and I think it's time.
She has no idea whether it's Russia, China, or anybody else.
I am not quoting myself.
No idea.
I am quoting
Hillary, you have no idea.
17 intelligence. Do you doubt 17
our
military
has
and
no
civilian
idea.
agencies? Well,
yeah,
he'd rather believe Vladimir Putin than the military and civilian intelligence professionals who are sworn to protect us. I find that just absolutely right.
All right, so that was probably our first back and forth, and there was quite a bit to unpack there. I haven't read the thing about WikiLeaks and whether or not she really does want open borders. What she did say about trading energy with them is true. We do trade more energy with them than any other country. When people say that we need to get off of our foreign dependence of oil, we get about 5% of our oil from the Middle East. The rest of it comes from Canada, Mexico, Venezuela, and Colombia or something. Saudi Arabia is like 5th or 6th. So trading energy in our own hemisphere is a valid point. Opening the borders, I don't know. I'd have to look more into that. As for Trump saying that Putin, maybe not Putin, but Russians should hack Hillary Clinton and see what they can find, he absolutely did say that. That stuff is on video. I find it incredible that he's able to deny these things when we have him on video saying them. He was also shaking his head when she mentioned that he called Mexicans rapists and murderers. We have it on video. We all know he said it. He can go ahead and stop pretending that he didn't at this point. But just like you, I am personally kind of tired of this back and forth, and I've seen kindergartners who argue better than them. No, you're the puppet. No, you're the puppet. Please.
That when the president gives the order, it must be followed. There's about 4 minutes between the order being given and the people responsible for launching nuclear weapons to do so. And that's why 10 people who have had that awesome responsibility have come out and in an unprecedented way said they would not trust Donald Trump with the nuclear codes or to have his finger on the nuclear button.
I have 200 generals and admirals, 21 endorsing me. 21 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients. As far as Japan and other countries, we are being ripped off by everybody in the world. We're defending other countries. We are spending a fortune doing it. They have the bargain of the century. All I said is we have to renegotiate these agreements because our country cannot afford to defend Saudi Arabia, Japan, Germany, South Korea, and many other places. We cannot continue to afford. She took that as saying nuclear weapons. Look, she's been proven to be a liar on so many different ways. This is just another lie.
Well, I'm just quoting you when
There's
you were
no
asked
quote.
about
You're not going to find a quote from me.
Nuclear competition in Asia. You said, you know, go ahead, enjoy yourselves, folks. That kind
and defend
of language,
yourselves. And defend yourselves. I didn't say nuclear. And defend yourself.
The United States has kept the peace through our alliances. Donald wants to tear up our alliances. I think it makes the world safer, and frankly, it makes the United States safer. I would work with our allies in Asia, in Europe, in the Middle East, and elsewhere. That's the only way we're going to be able to keep peace.
We are going to move on to the next topic, which is the economy, and I hope we handle that as well as we did immigration. You also have very different ideas about how to get the economy growing faster. Secretary Clinton, in your plan, government plays a big role. You see more government spending, more entitlements, more tax credits, more tax penalties. Mr. Trump, you want to get government out with lower taxes and less regulation.
Yes.
We're going to drill down into this a little bit more, but in this overview, please explain to me why you believe that your plan will create more jobs and growth for this country and your opponent's plan will not. In this round, you go first, Secretary Clinton.
Well, I think when the middle class thrives, America thrives. And so my plan is based on growing the economy, giving middle class families many more opportunities. I want us to have the biggest jobs program since World War II, jobs in infrastructure and advanced manufacturing. I think we can compete with high-wage countries, and I believe we should. New jobs and clean energy, not only to fight climate change, which is a serious problem, but to create new opportunities and new businesses. I want us to do more to help small business. That's where 2/3 of the new jobs are going to come from. I want us to raise the national minimum wage because people who live in poverty should not, who work full-time should not still be in poverty. And I sure do want to make sure women get equal pay for the work we do. I feel strongly that we have to have an education system that starts with preschool and goes through college. That's why I want more technical education in high schools and in community colleges, real apprenticeships to prepare young people for the jobs of the future. I want to make college debt-free, and for families making less than $125,000, you will not get a tuition bill from a public college or university if the plan that I worked on with Bernie Sanders is enacted. And we're going to work hard to make sure that it is, because we are going to go where the money is. Most of the gains in the last years since the Great Recession have gone to the very top. So we are going to have the wealthy pay their fair share. We're going to have corporations make a contribution greater than they are now to our country. That is a plan that has been analyzed by independent experts, which said that it could produce 10 million new jobs. By contrast, Donald's plan has been analyzed to conclude it might lose 3.5 million jobs. Why? Because his whole plan is to cut taxes, to give the biggest tax breaks ever to the wealthy and to corporations, adding $20 trillion to our debt and causing the kind of dislocation that we have seen before, because it truly will be trickle-down economics on steroids. So the plan I have, I think, will actually produce greater opportunities. The plan he has will cost us jobs and possibly lead to another great recession.
Secretary, thank you. Mr. Trump, why will your plan create more jobs and growth than Secretary Clinton?
Well, first of all, before I start on my plan, her plan is going to raise taxes and even double your taxes. Her tax plan is a disaster, and she can say all she wants about college tuition, and I'm a big proponent. We're going to do a lot of things for college tuition, but the rest of the public's going to be paying for it. We will have a massive, massive tax increase under Hillary Clinton's plan. But I'd like to start off where we left, because when I said Japan and Germany, and I'm not to single them out, but South Korea, these are very rich, powerful countries. Saudi Arabia. Nothing but money. We protect Saudi Arabia. Why aren't they paying? She immediately, when she heard this, I questioned it. And I questioned NATO. Why aren't the NATO questioned? Why aren't they paying? Because they weren't paying. Since I did this was a year ago, all of a sudden they're paying. And I've been given a lot of credit for it. All of a sudden they're starting to pay up. They have to pay up. We're protecting people. They have to pay up. And I'm a big fan of NATO, but they have to pay up. She comes out and said, we love our allies. We think our allies are great. Well, it's awfully hard to get them to pay up when you have somebody saying, we think how great they are. We have to tell Japan in a very nice way. We have to tell Germany, all of these countries, South Korea. We have to say, you have to help us out. We have, during his regime, during President Obama's regime, we've doubled our national debt. We're up to $20 trillion.
The national debt increases under every single president. It wouldn't matter who the president is, it always increases. So blaming Obama, you could blame whoever the president is. Whoever the next president is, it will increase. That's just how it is. It will always increase. That's how it is. Also, as for his very nicely asking Japan and Germany that they have to start paying up, good luck with that. We've had 50 plus years of military occupation of their countries, and that's partially why they're doing a lot better than we are economic-wise or economy-wise. But I really don't think Donald Trump and his epic charisma is going to change anything about that.
Cuts we've ever seen, 3 times more than the tax cuts under the Bush administration. I have said repeatedly throughout this campaign, I will not raise taxes on anyone making $250,000 or less. I also will not add a penny to the debt. I have costed out what I'm going to do. He will, through his massive tax cuts, add $20 trillion to the debt. Well, he mentioned the debt. We know how to get control of the debt. When my husband was president, we went from a $300 billion deficit to a $200 billion surplus, and we were actually on the path to eliminating the national debt. When President Obama came into office, he inherited the worst economic disaster since the Great Depression. He has cut the deficit by 2/3. So, yes, one of the ways you go after the debt, one of the ways you create jobs is by investing in people. So I do have investments in new jobs, investments in education, skill training, and the opportunities for people to get ahead and stay ahead. That's the kind of approach that will work. Cutting taxes on the wealthy, we've tried that. It has not worked the way that it has been promised.
Secretary Clinton, I want to pursue your plan because in many ways it is similar to the Obama stimulus plan in 2009, which has led to the slowest GDP growth since 1949.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. You told me in July when we spoke that the problem is that President Obama didn't get to do enough in what he was trying to do with this stimulus. So is your plan basically even more of the Obama stimulus?
Well, it's a combination, Chris. And let me say that when you inherit the level of economic catastrophe that President Obama inherited, it was a real touch-and-go situation. I was in the Senate before I became Secretary of State. I've never seen people as physically distraught as the Bush administration team was because of what was happening to the economy. I personally believe that the steps that President Obama took saved the economy. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for taking some very hard positions. But it was a terrible recession. So now we've dug ourselves out of it. We're standing, but we're not yet running. So what I am proposing is that we invest from the middle out and the ground up, not the top down. That is not going to work. That's why what I have put forward doesn't add a penny to the debt, but it is the kind of approach that will enable more people to take those new jobs, higher paying jobs. We're beginning to see some increase in incomes, and we certainly have had a long string of increasing jobs. We've got to do more to get the whole economy moving, and that's what I believe I will be able to do.
Mr. Trump, even conservative economists who have looked at your plan say that the numbers don't add up, that your idea, and you've talked about 25 million jobs created, 4%
Over a 10-year period.
growth, is unrealistic. And they say, you talk a lot about growing the energy industry, they say with oil prices as low as they are right now, that's unrealistic as well. Your response?
So I just left some high representatives of India. They're growing at 8%. China is growing at 7%, and that for them is a catastrophically low number. We are growing. Our last report came out, and it's right around the 1% level, and I think it's going down. Last week, as you know, at the end of last week, they came out with an anemic jobs report, a terrible jobs report. In fact, I said, is that the last jobs report before the election? Because if it is, I should win easily. It was so bad. The report was so bad. Look, our country is stagnant. We've lost our jobs. We've lost our businesses. We're not making things anymore, relatively speaking. Our product is pouring in from China, pouring in from Vietnam, pouring in from all over the world. I've visited so many communities. This has been such an incredible education for me, Chris. I've gotten to know so many. I've developed so many friends over the last year, and they cry when they see what's happened. I passed factories that were thriving 20, 25 years ago, and because of the bill that her husband signed and she blessed 100%, it is just horrible what's happened to these people in these communities. Now, she can say that her husband did well, but boy, did they suffer as NAFTA kicked in, because it didn't really kick in very much, but it kicked in after they left. Boy, did they suffer. That was one of the worst things that's ever been signed by our country. Now she wants to sign Trans-Pacific Partnership, and she wants it. She lied when she said she didn't call it the gold standard in one of the debates. She totally lied. She did call it the gold standard, and they actually fact-checked, and they said I was right. I was so honored.
I want to give you a chance to briefly speak to that, and then I want to pivot to 1/6 of the economy, which is Obamacare. But go ahead, briefly.
First, let me say, number one, when I saw the final agreement for TPP, I said I was against it. It didn't meet my tests. I've had the same tests. Does it create jobs, raise incomes, and further our national security? I'm against it now. I'll be against it after the election. I'll be against it when I'm president. There's only one of us on this stage who's actually shipped jobs to Mexico, because that's Donald. He's shipped jobs to 12 countries, including Mexico. But he mentioned China. And, you know, one of the biggest problems we have with China is the illegal dumping of steel and aluminum into our markets. I have fought against that as a senator. I've stood up against it as Secretary of State. Donald has bought Chinese steel and aluminum. In fact, the Trump hotel right here in Las Vegas was made with Chinese steel. So he goes around with crocodile tears about how terrible it is, but he has given jobs to Chinese steel workers, not American steel workers.
Mr. Trump?
That's the kind of approach that is just not going to work. We're going to pull the country together. We're going to have trade agreements that we enforce. That's why I'm going to have a trade prosecutor for the first time in history, and we're going to enforce those agreements, and we're going to look for businesses to help us by buying American products.
I ask a simple question. She's been doing this for 30 years. Why the hell didn't you do it over the last 15, 20 years? You were very much involved. Excuse me, my turn. You were very much involved in every aspect of this country, very much. And you do have experience. I'd say the one thing you have over me is experience, but it's bad experience, because what you've done has turned out badly. For 30 years, you've been in a position to help. And if you say that I use steel or I use something else, I make it impossible for me to do that. I wouldn't mind. The problem is you talk, but you don't get anything done, Hillary. You don't. Just like when you ran the State Department, $6 billion was missing. How do you miss $6 billion? You ran the State Department. $6 billion was either stolen, they don't know. It's gone. $6 billion. If you become president, this country is going to be in some mess, believe me.
Well,
okay, he brings this up every single debate. That's a nice pause, nice picture of Trump there. Anyway, he brings this up every debate. Why didn't you do something? You've been in public service for 30 years, blah, blah. She's been a first lady who has almost zero power aside from people listen to her sometimes. She's been a senator, so one of 100 people. One senator cannot unilaterally do anything. And she's been a Secretary of State who answers to a boss and cannot just do things like stop Trump from illegally selling aluminum and steel. She's not been in a position or been in even an influential position where she could just do stuff like Trump thinks that he will be able to do as president. The president doesn't have that much power. He can't just, or she, can't just do stuff. That's not how it works. Trump has this very disillusioned idea of what a president can do, what a senator and secretary of state can do, and he thinks that's some sort of PowerPoint against her where, well, she didn't enact this stuff 15 years ago when she was a senator from New York, when under a Republican-controlled Senate. I mean, she didn't do these things because one person can't. That's the point of our government, is it's representative. There's multiple people. You can't just do things because you want to. Pikachu said that he wants to see Donald Trump run this country like a business. The problem is that the government is not a business. The government is designed to run at a loss. If you run the country like a business, you will profit, which means you are taking from the people and not providing services, or you're providing services at minimal cost, whereas the point of government is to almost always operate at budget or at a loss and not at a profit. Not to mention the fact that Trump doesn't exactly have the best business track record, bankruptcies and not paying people and such. I don't know if you saw this recently, but there was a dance troupe of like 7-year-old girls dancing at one of his rallies, and he didn't pay them. They are now suing him for $5,000 to $15,000. Like these 7-year-old girls who did a patriotic dance, and he's not paying them because they didn't do a good enough job. This is not only do I consider that to be a bad businessman, but it is not the kind of person who I want running the country, especially if he plans on running it as a business. And then Braindead asked if I think Hillary is interested in anyone but herself. I very much do. I do think that she is power hungry, but what politician isn't? That is a fairly common theme among politicians, but I do believe in her heart she does have the best interests of the people in mind. You may disagree with the way she wants to make it better, but I do think that she wants to make it better. Trump, on the other hand, I think he's just in it for himself. I don't think he could care less. I don't think he couldn't care less about anyone but himself. Whereas Hillary, I think her heart is in the right place, at least. So, there. Let's get back to this.
Well,
Secretary Clinton.
At the last debate, we heard Donald talking about what he did to women. And after that, a number of women have come forward saying that's exactly what he did to them. Now, what was his response? Well, he held a number of big rallies where he said that he could not possibly have done those things to those women because they were not attractive enough for them to be assaulted.
I did not say that.
In fact, he went on to say...
Her 2 minutes, sir, her 2 minutes.
But did not say that.
It's her 2 minutes.
He went on to say, look at her. I don't think so. About another woman, he said, that wouldn't be my first choice. He attacked the woman reporter writing the story, called her disgusting, as he has called a number of women during this campaign. You know, Donald thinks belittling women makes him bigger. He goes after their dignity, their self-worth, and I don't think there is a woman anywhere who doesn't know what that feels like. So we now know what Donald thinks and what he says and how he acts toward women. That's who Donald is. I think it's really up to all of us to demonstrate who we are and who our country is, and to stand up and be very clear about what we expect from our next president, how we want to bring our country together, where we don't want to have the kind of pitting of people one against the other, where instead we celebrate our diversity, we lift people up, and we make our country even greater. America is great because America is good. And it really is up to all of us to make that true now and in the future, and particularly for our children and our grandchildren.
Mr. Trump.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody. Nobody has more respect.
Please, everybody.
And frankly, those stories have been largely debunked. And I really want to just talk about something slightly different. She mentions this, which is all fiction, all fictionalized, probably or possibly started by her and her very sleazy campaign. But I will tell you, what isn't fictionalized are her emails, where she destroyed 33,000 emails criminally, after getting a subpoena from the United States Congress. What happened to the FBI? I don't know. We have a great general, 4-star general, today, you read it in all the papers, going to potentially serve 5 years in jail for lying to the FBI. One lie. She's lied hundreds of times to the people, to Congress, and to the FBI. He's going to probably go to jail. This is a 4-star general, and she gets away with it, and she can run for the presidency of the United States. That's really what you should be talking about, not fiction, where somebody wants fame or where they come out of her crooked campaign.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, every time Donald is pushed on something which is obviously uncomfortable, like what these women are saying, he immediately goes to...
All right, I had to stop it right there because I saw Brain Dead post that Hillary had no respect for the 12-year-old child who was raped, and she defended the rapist, and she laughed about getting him off. That has been debunked so many times. So many times. Yes, yeah, people are already starting to say. She laughed at the fact that the person she was defending passed a lie detector test, and she said that ruined her respect for lie detectors ever again. She absolutely thought that the man was guilty. Now, you can read more about the story on Snopes and other places, but it has been debunked. She never once laughed about getting someone off, but I will say this separate from that. You should take that issue and just kind of move it to the side. You can't be mad at her for being a defense attorney and actually defending her clients. That was her job. That is a constitutional right of everyone. Every criminal defense lawyer has defended someone they know to be guilty. That's just how it is. Now, bring that issue back. Again, she defended someone she knew was guilty. Yes, the person, I believe, didn't get any punishment, but she didn't laugh at the victim. That is absolutely untrue.
Okay.
But those other charges, as she knows, are false.
In this bucket about fitness to be president, there's been a lot of developments over the last 10 days since the last debate. I'd like to ask you about them. These are questions that the American people have. Secretary Clinton, during your 2009 Senate confirmation hearing, you promised to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest with your dealing with the Clinton Foundation while you were Secretary of State. But emails show that donors got special access to you. Those seeking grants for Haiti relief were considered separately from non-donors, and some of those donors got government contracts, taxpayer money, can you really say that you kept your pledge to that Senate committee? And why isn't what happened and what went on between you and the Clinton Foundation, why isn't it what Mr. Trump calls pay to play?
Well, everything I did as Secretary of State was in furtherance of our country's interests and our values. The State Department has said that. I think that's been proven. But I am happy. In fact, I'm thrilled to talk about the Clinton Foundation because it is a world-renowned charity. And I am so proud of the work that it does. You know, I could talk for the rest of the debate. I know I don't have the time to do that. But just briefly, the Clinton Foundation made it possible for 11 million people around the world with HIV/AIDS to afford treatment, and that's about half of all the people in the world who are getting treatment. In partnership with the American Health Association, we have made environments in schools healthier for kids,
Secretary
including
Clinton,
healthier
respectfully, this is an open discussion.
Well, it is an open discussion.
I understand, and the specific question went to pay for play. Do you want to talk about that?
But there is no evidence, but there is a lot of evidence about the very good work
and it's a criminal enterprise, and so many people know it. It's a criminal enterprise. Saudi Arabia giving $25 million, Qatar, all of these countries. You talk about women and women's rights. So these are people that push gays off buildings. These are people that kill women and treat women horribly, and yet you take their money. So I'd like to ask you right now, why don't you give back the money that you've taken from certain countries that treat certain groups of people so horribly? Why don't you give back the money? I think it would be a great gesture, because she takes a tremendous amount of money, and you take a look at the people of Haiti. I was at a little Haiti the other day in Florida, and I want to tell you, they hate the Clintons, because what's happened in Haiti with the Clinton Foundation is a disgrace. And you know it, and they know it, and everybody knows
Secretary
it. Well,
Clinton.
very quickly, we at the Clinton Foundation spend 90% of all the money that is donated on behalf of programs of people around the world and in our own country. I'm very proud of that. We have the highest rating from the watchdogs that follow foundations, and I'd be happy to compare what we do with the Trump Foundation, which took money from other people and bought a 6-foot portrait of Donald. I mean, who does that? It just was astonishing. But when it comes to Haiti, Haiti is the poorest country in our hemisphere. The earthquake and the hurricanes, it has devastated Haiti. Bill and I have been involved in trying to help Haiti for many years. The Clinton Foundation raised $30 million to help Haiti after the catastrophic earthquake and all of the terrible problems the people there had. We've done things to help small businesses, agriculture, and so much else. And we're going to keep working to help Haiti, because it's an important part of the American
They don't want you to help them anymore. I'd like to mention one thing. Trump Foundation, small foundation. People contribute. I contribute. The money goes 100% goes to different charities, including a lot of military. I don't get anything. I don't buy boats. I don't buy planes. What happens is the money goes out.
Wasn't some of the money used to settle your lawsuit, sir?
No, it was. We put up the American flag, and that's it. They put up the American flag. We fought for the right in Palm Beach to put up the American flag.
There was a penalty that was imposed by Palm Beach County, and the money came from your foundation.
And by the way, the money went to Fisher House, where they build houses. The money that you're talking about went to Fisher House, where they build houses for veterans and disabled.
I want to get into one last...
But of course, there's no way we can know whether any of that is true, because he hasn't released his tax returns. He is the first candidate ever to run for president in the last 40-plus years who has not released his tax returns. So everything he says about charity or anything else, we can't prove it. You can look at our tax returns. We've got them all out there. But what is really troubling is that we learned in the last debate he has not paid a penny in federal income tax. And we were talking about immigrants a few minutes ago, Chris. You know, half of all immigrants, undocumented immigrants in our country, actually pay federal income tax. So we have undocumented immigrants in America who are paying more federal income tax than a billionaire. I find that
let me just tell you very
astonishing.
Simply, we're entitled, because of the laws that people like her pass, to take massive amounts of depreciation and other charges, and we do it. And all of her donors, just about all of them, I know Buffett took hundreds of millions of dollars. George Soros, took hundreds of millions of dollars. Let me just explain. All of her donors, most of her donors have done the same thing as I do.
Okay.
And you know what she should have done?
Folks, we heard
and
this.
You know, Hillary, what you should have done? You should have changed the law when you were a United States Senator. If you don't like it. Because your donors and your special interests are doing the same thing as I do, except even more so.
Well,
you should have changed the law, but you won't change the law because you take in so much money. I mean, I sat in my apartment today on a very beautiful hotel down the street, known as Trump.
Made with Chinese steel.
But I will tell you, I sat there watching ad after ad after ad, false ad, all paid for by your friends on Wall Street that gave so much money because they know you're going to protect them. And frankly, you should have changed the laws. If you don't like what I did, you should have changed the laws.
Mr. Trump, I want.
Again, he seems to not understand how laws work. Hillary Clinton cannot unilaterally change tax law. That would be a House, Senate, and President all agreeing to change tax law in order to stop millionaires and billionaires from claiming depreciation. So, Mr. Trump saying, you should have changed this when you were in the Senate. She's one of 538 people. She can't just change stuff like that. It's not how it works. And I'm very surprised that he didn't bring this up. It seems that he's abandoning this defense, that he'll release them once the tax audit is done, because the IRS has said repeatedly he can release them whenever he wants, audit or not. Now he's clearly just not doing it to not do it. But we did learn during the last debate and the previous debate that he's paid zero in federal income tax, which I don't know about you guys, makes me quite furious, because I pay federal income tax. So knowing that he gets out of it, even though he's rich and whatever, is quite annoying to me. So yeah, anyway.
To run. And just in that respect, I say it's rigged, because she should never, Chris, she should never have been allowed to run for the presidency based on what she did with emails and so many other things.
But, sir, there is a tradition in this country. In fact, one of the prides of this country is the peaceful transition of power, and that no matter how hard fought a campaign is, that at the end of the campaign, that the loser concedes to the winner. Not saying that you're necessarily going to be the loser or the winner, but that the loser concedes to the winner and that the country comes together in part for the good of the country. Are you saying you're not prepared now to commit to that principle?
What I'm saying is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Well,
okay?
Chris, let me respond to that, because that's horrifying. You know, every time Donald thinks things are not going in his direction, he claims whatever it is rigged against him. The FBI conducted a year-long investigation into my emails. They concluded there was no case. He said the FBI was rigged. He lost the Iowa caucus. He lost the Wisconsin primary. He said the Republican primary was rigged against him. Then Trump University gets sued for fraud and racketeering. He claims the court system and the federal judge is rigged against him. There was even a time when he didn't get an Emmy for his TV program 3 years in a row, and he started tweeting that the Emmys were rigged against him.
Should have gotten it.
This is a mindset. This is how Donald thinks. And it's funny, but it's also really troubling.
Okay.
You know, that is not the way our democracy works. We've been around for 240 years. We've had free and fair elections. We've accepted the outcomes when we may not have liked them. And that is what must be expected of anyone standing on a debate stage during a general election. You know, President Obama said the other day, when you're whining before the game is even finished, it just shows you're not up to doing the job. And let's be clear about what he is saying and what that means. He is denigrating, he's talking down our democracy. And I, for one, am appalled that somebody who is the nominee of one of our two major parties would take that kind of position.
I think what the FBI did and what the Department of Justice did, including meeting with her husband, the Attorney General, in the back of an airplane on the tarmac in Arizona, I think it's disgraceful. I think it's a disgrace.
All right.
I think we've never had a situation so bad.
Hold on, folks. This doesn't do any good for anyone. Let's please continue the debate, and let's move on to the subject of foreign hotspots. The Iraqi offensive.
Okay, before we move on to the topic of foreign hotspots, I feel that Donald Trump's claims that everything is rigged, I didn't realize that his claims go all the way back to his losing the Emmy, but the fact that he's already planting the seed in people that this election is rigged is one of the most damaging things he could possibly be doing, because it means that if or when he loses, people will automatically think that it was rigged, and they won't trust the president. Even voter fraud in the United States is not a thing. Voter fraud accounts for like 0.0000008%, like absolutely super tiny. If all the voter fraud happened, it still wouldn't affect the election. And him claiming that it's rigged before the results even happen just plant the seed in people so that when their candidate loses, if their candidate loses, they'll just think it's rigged and we'll start all this over again. The election won't be the end of it. It'll just be the beginning. I think it's damaging and it's strategic on his part, Eric, in order to plant the seed that if he loses, he didn't really lose, to try and maintain his image, because his image is all about winning. So if he loses, it must be because it's rigged. But that's another example of why I think he's just in it for himself. If he loses, it's rigged because I'm a winner. But he doesn't realize what kind of damage he's doing to the American public as a whole by doing that. Now, when you said, wait, why is meeting with lawyers disgraceful? There was a case where while Hillary Clinton was still being investigated for the 8th time over these emails, they were on a plane, they were on Air Force One. Oh, she wasn't. I'm sorry, I take that back. Bill Clinton was on Air Force One, and the Attorney General got on the plane, and they spoke for 5 minutes or something. And no one knows what it was about. So, of course, there's conspiracies that he bullied her into letting Hillary Clinton off. And again, this was the 8th time she was being investigated over the same thing. Honestly, to me, if they had found something the 8th time that they didn't find the first 7 times, I would wonder where that came from. Immediately, I would think it was planted, or what? What could possibly come up the 8th time that wasn't found the previous 7 times? It blows my mind. But that's what he's talking about when he said it's disgraceful that he met with the Attorney General. We don't know what was said. They both say it had nothing to do with Hillary Clinton, but of course nobody believes that. So that's where we're at. But I really feel that him saying that this is rigged is super dangerous, because it means it won't be the end when it should be the end. When the election is over, we're supposed to peacefully transfer power, and instead what we're going to have is a transfer of power followed by 38% of the country saying it was rigged, which is not healthy at all, and it does make me absolutely mad. But okay, let's get into some foreign hotspots.
He said, what do we need this for? So Mosul is going to be a wonderful thing, and Iran should write us a letter of thank you, just like the really stupid, the stupidest deal of all time. A deal that's going to give Iran absolutely nuclear weapons. Iran should write us yet another letter saying thank you very much. Because Iran, as I said many years ago, Iran is taking over Iraq, something they've wanted to do forever, but we've made it so easy for them. So we're now going to take Mosul, and you know who's going to be the beneficiary? Iran. Boy, are they making, I mean, they are outsmarting. Look, you're not there. You might be involved in that decision, but you were there when you took everybody out of Mosul and out of Iraq. You shouldn't have been in Iraq, but you did vote for it. You shouldn't have been in Iraq, but once you were in Iraq, you should have never left the way. The point is, the big winner is going to be Iran.
Well, you know, once again, Donald is implying that he didn't support the invasion of Iraq. I said it was a mistake. I've said that years ago. He has consistently denied what is a very clear fact, that before the invasion, he supported it. And, you know, I just want everybody to go Google it. Google Donald Trump Iraq, and you will see the dozens of sources which verify that he was for the invasion of Iraq. And you can actually hear the audio of him saying that. Now, why does that matter? Well, it matters because he has not told the truth about that position. I guess he believes it makes him look better now, to contrast with me, because I did vote for it. But what's really important here is to understand all the interplay. Mosul is a Sunni city. Mosul is on the border of Syria. And yes, we do need to go after Baghdadi, and just like we went after bin Laden while you were doing Celebrity Apprentice, and we brought him to justice. We need to go after the leadership, but we need to get rid of them, get rid of their fighters. They're estimated several thousand fighters in Mosul. They've been digging underground. They've been prepared to defend. It's going to be tough fighting, but I think we can take back Mosul, and then we can move on into Syria and take back Raqqa. This is what we have to do. I'm just amazed that he seems to think that the Iraqi government and our allies and everybody else launched the attack on Mosul to help me in this election. But that's how Donald thinks. You know, he always is looking for some
Chris, we don't gain anything.
He has all this
Iran is taking over Iraq.
Secretary Clinton.
Iran is taking over Iraq. We don't gain
Secretary Clinton.
We would have gained if they did it by surprise.
Wait. Secretary Clinton, it's an open discussion.
He
Secretary.
We would have gained if they did it by surprise.
Please let Mr. Trump speak.
He's unfit, and he proves it every time
you
he
are
talks.
the one that's unfit. You know, WikiLeaks just actually came out. John Podesta said some horrible things about you, and boy, was he right. He said some beauties. And, you know, Bernie Sanders, he said you have bad judgment. You do. And if you think that going into Mosul, after we let the world know we're going in, and all of the people that we really wanted, the leaders, they're all gone. If you think that was good, then you do. Now, John Podesta said you have terrible instincts. Bernie Sanders said you have bad judgment. I agree with both.
Well, you should ask Bernie Sanders who he's supporting for president, and he has said,
which is
as
a big
he has
mistake.
campaigned for me around the country, you are the most dangerous person to run for president in the modern history of America. I think he's right.
Let's turn to Aleppo. Mr. Trump, in the last debate, you were both asked about the situation in the Syrian city of Aleppo, and I want to follow up on that because you said several things in that debate which were not true, sir. You said that Aleppo has basically fallen. In fact, there are.
It's a catastrophe.
It is a catastrophe, but there are a quarter.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
Sir,
have you seen what's happened to Aleppo?
If I might finish my question.
Okay, so it hasn't fallen. Take a look at it.
Well, there are 250,000 people still living there and being slaughtered.
That's right.
You also
and they are being slaughtered because of bad decisions.
If I may just finish here. And you also said that that Syria and Russia are busy fighting ISIS. In fact, they have been the ones who've been bombing and shelling eastern Aleppo. And they just announced a humanitarian pause, in effect, admitting that they have been bombing and shelling Aleppo. Would you like to clear that up, sir?
Well, Aleppo is a disaster. It's a humanitarian nightmare, but it has fallen from any standpoint. I mean, what do you need?
Okay, we have enough comments here that I feel fine with responding. First of all, Pikachu asked about. Let's see here. A few years ago, Hillary Clinton said that she arrived in Bosnia under cover of, or under sniper fire, or under cover of snipers. What do I feel about that? I couldn't care less. She was an important person. She probably did have sniper cover. Whether she was being fired at or not is she probably wasn't. Let's face it. But people like to hype up the situation more than it really was. You know, that you like to say, "Oh yeah, we arrived under gunfire," when really the truth is you heard some popcorn going off in the background. And maybe to her that, you know, was enough of an experience to be like, "Oh man, this, you know, it's subjective. Oh man, I'm being shot at." She probably wasn't being shot at. She probably heard some gunfire or something. To me, she's not using that as like the core message of her campaign. I haven't heard her say it in years, so I kind of let it go. All kinds of people are accused of doing that. Several senators always say that they dropped into the Iraq war zone when they were in the green zone of Baghdad, which means they were probably in the safest place on earth, honestly. They like to say that because to civilians it just sounds like they're tougher people, you know? So I give her a pass on that one. Now, Eric, what you said, isn't announcing military action a dumb idea? He has said this repeatedly. He said last week that I can't believe that we're announcing that we're going to go into Mosul because it will give them a chance to get out, which is partially true. That is partially true. However, the United States plays by the rules, and the rules are you give civilians a chance to get out. That's just how it is. I know ISIS doesn't play by the rules. I know Al-Qaeda doesn't play by the rules, but we do. And if we don't, we're gonna catch a lot of heat for it. So we play by the rules, unless it's some super secret mission like getting Osama bin Laden, plucking him out of the middle of a city. That's different. But when it's a full-scale invasion, under the Geneva Convention, we are required to say this is going to happen. The invasion of Mosul started yesterday. It is happening today. And he thinks that we shouldn't have announced it. Little known fact, before we dropped the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we had like 12 possible target cities. And we dropped leaflets on those cities saying, "We have a bomb that will erase your cities. Get out." Most people read those leaflets and said, "Yeah, sure you do," and they went about their business. There are a few cases, you can Google this, there are a few cases of people who read those leaflets and got out of Dodge, and they are alive because of it. We dropped them on all like dozen possible cities, and then we bombed 2 of them. Apparently, according to Trump, he would have been against that idea, which would have been completely against the Geneva Convention. Ernest, I agree that it doesn't necessarily make it right, but it does make it within the bounds of the rules. We told them, we are going to bomb your military targets in this city, get out. And as long as we gave them the warning, we're following the rules. So telling Mosul, hey, if you're a civilian, we're coming tomorrow, get out, that is following the rules. Trump finds it weak, but that basically, to me, tells me that Trump doesn't believe in the Geneva Conventions. He wants to fight the way ISIS and Al-Qaeda fight, and I am not. I don't support that idea. I don't support war in general, but if we're going to do it, we should do it by the rules that the world has mostly agreed on. So, there's that.
How stupid our leadership is.
Mr. Trump, Secretary Clinton, no, we need to move on to our final segment, and that is the national debt, which has not been discussed until tonight. Our national debt as a share of the economy, our GDP, is now 77%. That's the highest since just after World War II. But the nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget says, Secretary Clinton, under your plan, debt would rise to 86% of GDP over the next 10 years. Mr. Trump, under your plan, they say it would rise to 105% of GDP over the next 10 years. Question is, why are both of you ignoring this problem? Mr. Trump, you go first.
Well, I say they're wrong because I'm going to create tremendous jobs. And we're bringing GDP from really 1%, which is what it is now. And if she got in, it'll be less than 0. But we're bringing it from 1% up to 4%. And I actually think we can go higher than 4%. I think you can go to 5 or 6%. And if we do, you don't have to bother asking your question because we have a tremendous machine. We will have created a tremendous economic machine once again. To do that, we're taking back jobs. We're not going to let our companies be raided by other countries where we lose all our jobs. We don't make our product anymore. It's very sad. But I'm going to create the kind of a country that we were from the standpoint of industry. We used to be there. We've given it up. We've become very, very sloppy. We've had people that are political hacks making the biggest deals in the world, bigger than companies. You take these big companies, these trade deals are far bigger than these companies. And yet we don't use our great leaders, many of whom back me and many of whom back Hillary, I must say. But we don't use those people. Those are the people, these are the greatest negotiators in the world. We have the greatest business people in the world. We have to use them to negotiate our trade deals. We use political hacks. We use people that get the position because they made a campaign contribution. And they're dealing with China and people that are very much smarter than they are. So we have to use our great people. But with that being said, we will create an economic machine, the likes of which we haven't seen in many decades. And people, Chris, will again go back to work, and they'll make a lot of money, and we'll have companies that will grow and expand and start from new.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, first, when I hear Donald talk like that and know that his slogan is "Make America Great Again," I wonder when he thought America was great. And before he rushes and says, you know, before you and President Obama were there, I think it's important to recognize that he has been criticizing our government for decades. You know, back in 1987, he took out a $100,000 ad in the New York Times during the time when President Reagan was president and basically said exactly what he just said now, that we were the laughing stock of the world. He was criticizing President Reagan. This is the way Donald thinks about himself, puts himself into, you know, the middle and says, you know, I alone can fix it, as he said on the convention stage. But if you look at the debt, which is the issue you asked about, Chris, I pay for everything I'm proposing. I do not add a penny to the national debt. I take that very seriously because I do think it's one of the issues we've got to come to grips with. So when I talk about how we're going to pay for education, how we're going to invest in infrastructure, how we're going to get the cost of prescription drugs down, and a lot of the other issues that people talk to me about all the time, I've made it very clear we are going where the money is. We are going to ask the wealthy and corporations to pay their fair share. And there is no evidence whatsoever that that will slow down or diminish our growth. In fact, I think just the opposite. We'll have what economists call middle-out growth. We've got to get back to rebuilding the middle class, the families of America. That's where growth will come from. That's why I want to invest in you. I want to invest in your family. And I think that's the smartest way to grow the economy, to make the economy fairer. And we just have a big disagreement about this. It may be because of our experiences. You know, he started off with his dad as a millionaire. I started off with my dad as a small businessman.
We've heard this before.
I think it's, you know, it's a difference that affects how we see the world and what we want to do with the economy.
Time.
Thank you, Hillary. Could I just respond?
Well, no.
Because I did disagree with Ronald Reagan very strongly on trade. I disagreed with him. We should have been much tougher on trade even then. I've been waiting for years. Nobody does it right. And frankly, now we're going to do it right.
All right. The one last area I want to get into with you in this debate is the fact that the biggest driver of our debt is entitlements, which is 60% of all federal spending. Now, the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget has looked at both of your plans, and they say neither of you has a serious plan that is going to solve the fact that Medicare is going to run out of money in the 2020s, Social Security is going to run out of money in the 2030s, and at that time, recipients are going to take huge cuts in their benefits. So,
I'm sorry, the moderator is just incorrect on these. Social Security is not going to run out anytime soon at all. That's just not true. That was something that they used to try and push 10 years ago, but was debunked 10 years ago. It's not going to run out. You're still paying into it. And the people who are taking from it are going to start dying soon. So it's not going to run out. It's a revolving door. It's Social Security is fine, and entitlements is not the biggest suck on our budget. It is military spending by far. We spend more on our military than the next 19 militaries combined. Okay. The moderator is incorrect and is putting out incorrect information on this one.
Same question, because at this point, Social Security and Medicare are going to run out. The trust funds are going to run out of money. Will you, as president, will you consider a grand bargain, a deal that includes both tax increases and benefit cuts to try to save both programs?
Well, Chris, I am on record as saying that we need to put more money into the Social Security Trust Fund. That's part of my commitment to raise taxes on the wealthy. My Social Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund by making sure that we have sufficient resources, and that will come from either raising the cap and or finding other ways to get more money into it. I will not cut benefits. I want to enhance benefits for low-income workers and for women who have been disadvantaged by the current Social Security system. But what Donald is proposing with these massive tax cuts will result in a $20 trillion additional national debt. That will have dire consequences for Social Security and Medicare. And I'll say something about the Affordable Care Act, which he wants to repeal. The Affordable Care Act extended the solvency of the Medicare Trust Fund. So if he repeals it, our Medicare problem gets worse. What we need to do is go after the long-term health care drivers. We've got to get costs down, increase value, emphasize wellness. I have a plan for doing that, and I think that we will be able to get entitlement spending under control with more resources and smarter decisions.
This is the final time, probably to both of your delight, that you're going to be on the stage together in this campaign. I would like to end it on a positive note. You had not agreed to closing statements, but it seems to me in a funny way that might make it more interesting because you haven't prepared closing statements. So I'd like you each to take, and we're going to put a clock up, a minute, as the final question in the final debate to tell the American people why they should elect you to be the next president. This is another new mini segment. Secretary Clinton, it's your turn to go first.
Well, I would like to say to everyone watching tonight that I'm reaching out to all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, because we need everybody to help make our country what it should be, to grow the economy, to make it fairer, to make it work for everyone. We need your talents, your skills, your commitment, your energy, your ambition. You know, I've been privileged to see the presidency up close, and I know the awesome responsibility of protecting our country and the incredible opportunity of working to try to make life better for all of you. I have made the cause of children and families really my life's work. That's what my mission will be in the presidency. I will stand up for families against powerful interests, against corporations. I will do everything that I can to make sure that you have good jobs with rising incomes, that your kids have good educations from preschool through college. I hope you will give me a chance to serve as your president.
Secretary Clinton, thank you. Mr. Trump?
She's raising the money from the people she wants to control. It doesn't work that way. But when I started this campaign, I started it very strongly. It's called Make America Great Again. We're going to make America great. We have a depleted military. It has to be helped, has to be fixed. We have the greatest people on earth in our military. We don't take care of our veterans. We take care of illegal immigrants, people that come into the country illegally, better than we take care of our vets. That can't happen. Our policemen and women are disrespected. We need law and order, but we need justice too. Our inner cities are a disaster. You get shot walking to the store. They have no education. They have no jobs. I will do more for African Americans and Latinos than she can ever do in 10 lifetimes. All she's done is talk to the African Americans and to the Latinos. But they get the vote, and then they come back. They say, we'll see you in 4 years. We are going to make America strong again, and we are going to make America great again, and it has to start now. We cannot take 4 more years of Barack Obama, and that's what you get when you get her.
Thank you both. Secretary Clinton, hold on just a moment, folks. Secretary Clinton, Mr. Trump, I want to thank you both for participating in all 3 of these debates. That brings to an end this year's debate sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. We want to thank the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and its students for having us. Now the decision is up to you. While millions have already voted, Election Day, November 8th, is just 20 days away. One thing everyone here can agree on, we hope you will go vote. It is one of the honors and obligations of living in this great country. Thank you, and good night.
Okay, so there was a very stark contrast there between the 2 final statements, as I'm sure you all noticed. Hers was very, well, it sounded prepared, to be honest, but let's be honest, she's done this several times before, so her having a prepared statement isn't that big of a deal. It was uplifting. It was very much, this is what I want to do for you and how I will do it, and I hope you give me the opportunity to do it. His, on the other hand, was, the country has gone to hell, it's her fault, and if you don't vote for me, it's just going to get worse. And it was very negative. There were 2 very stark contrasts there, just in their closing statements. Of course, throughout the entire debate, but they had this opportunity to reach out to the people for one last time, and they did it in very different ways. So that is very telling to me, and very telling of their campaigns. The fact that he's just saying the country has gone to hell. Policemen aren't respected. Come on, I don't know how many of you have ever been stopped by a policeman, but it's always yes sir, no ma'am, etc., etc. Even the videos of when black people are getting shot, they're always like, please sir, I have my hands up, don't shoot me. Pretty polite. I mean, I don't see all of the ones where I'm sure they get belligerent people, absolutely, but to say that they're being disrespected is just not true. Crime is way down in the country. The country is doing way better than it was expected to do. Unemployment is lower than it was projected to be. Violent crime is way down. Gun sales are way up. None of the stuff that he is saying is wrong seems to be happening. But he still continues to tell people it's horrible, it's horrible, it's horrible, and the only way for it to not be horrible is to elect me, because he thinks he can wave a magic wand. He very often says all that Clinton does is talk. She doesn't do anything. Donald Trump hasn't had the opportunity to do anything, so just by that very virtue alone, all he does is talk. He has zero experience in government and policy, where Clinton does. He clearly does not understand that one person can't just do things. This isn't a monarchy or a dictatorship. It's a democracy. We have elected representatives with specific jobs, specifically so that one person can't just do everything. It's by design that way. and he just, I will say, of all 3 debates, this one he performed the best in. He still doesn't have my vote, but he did contain himself the best during this one compared to the last 2, probably because of the last 2. But he's really showing his inexperience here, and his lack of trust in the American electorate to look up the facts that he seems to think show America to be this horrible place. You would, if you were an alien and you were watching these debates and you were watching Clinton and watching Trump, if you listen to Trump, you would think America is this hellscape where people can just walk outside and die at any moment, and that's just not true. Does it happen? Yes, on a super minor scale that's not really worth bringing up, but since we see it on TV all the time, whether it's the news or fiction, which is a topic from one of my memory error videos, you see it in fiction, you incorporate it as a memory, and you think it actually happened. America is pretty safe for the most part. There are pockets in inner cities where it's a little dangerous, but it's not, downtown Kandahar or Baghdad or Aleppo. It's pretty safe, generally speaking, and people are doing pretty well. So all right, we don't need to be watching them clapping each other's hands anymore. Let me look through the chat and see any questions you have. If you are on your way out because the debate is over, I do encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit. Check out my other content. And if you like it, please subscribe. One of the moderators was Snaggleteeth. I've been a guest on his streams several times, so I asked him to come in to help moderate. It didn't look like he needed to do that much work. You guys were fairly civil, which I was surprised about. I was checking the stats occasionally. We had about 15 people most of the time, which is good. I like that. I wasn't expecting a huge explosion, and I thought you guys were very civil. I told my moderators beforehand, if they start spamming, put her in jail, blah blah blah, please kick them out. No, I didn't see anybody saying that stuff, so that's great. So let's see what kind of questions you guys have. If you have any questions that you were holding on to, please ask. I'll answer them as best I can. But it looks like I have quite a few to get through. See, so you guys are kind of nitpicking individual cities as the worst place for certain people to live. It's very subjective. I mean, unless you have some numbers to back that up. I keep looking at myself. That's why it looks like I should look at the camera. It's very subjective. But yes, there are pockets where crime is high. South Chicago is one of them. I don't know about Tampa. I'd have to look that up. But I know Chicago is so bad that they called it Chirac. And they've enacted a lot of gun control measures in Chicago in order to try and combat that. As far as I'm aware, those gun control measures have not yet done anything positive. But we'll see. These things take time. You can't enact gun control and expect the problem to be solved tomorrow. Detroit ain't doing too shabby. Well, that might be because nobody lives in Detroit anymore. And yes, as what Eric said, Trump makes it seem like we're living in The Walking Dead or the end times even, where it's like, it's not that bad, Your insurance premiums have not gone up. For very, very few individuals, they have gone up. But for the majority of people, statistically across the nation, your premiums have gone down. And that's because more people are buying into it. It's just like car insurance. You are required to have car insurance, and because of that, everyone's car insurance is lower. If car insurance was optional, everyone's would be higher. It's always kind of baffled me since the Affordable Care Act came out that people were mad that they're required to get health insurance when they're totally fine with being required to get driver's insurance or car insurance. It's the same principle. The more people who have it, the cheaper it is for everybody. That's just how it works. Yes, I do have a poster of Master Chief up behind me. This is from Halo 4, before Halo 4. I really need to update my pop culture references around the house. I was very big into Halo 4 before it came out. I actually liked Halo 4, period. I liked Halo 4. I'll say it. I don't care. Halo 5, awful. Halo 4 was good. But yeah, this will be changing here soon. I've ordered some new posters. So since it's going to be winter and I'll be doing more indoor videos, I figured I needed to spruce up the way things look. Let's see. Ernest, yes, I do think whoever is president will survive 2 terms, because if ever I were to think someone was going to be assassinated, it would have been Obama. I was legitimately afraid that Obama was going to be assassinated because of the rhetoric of we can't have a black president, blah blah, and no attempts as far as I'm aware. So and that's good. I'm happy about that. So I think both of them will survive, whether it's Trump or Hillary. I mean, unless some unfortunate accident, but I don't think either of them will be assassinated. Not memories, personal experience. Personal experience and anecdotes, you know, if your car was broken into, of course, you're going to think that the country is not as safe. And that's why you have to look at the statistics countrywide before you can say it is or it isn't. When something happens to you personally, you know, like Philly D had his house broken into recently. So, of course, right now he probably thinks America isn't that safe. But he's a fairly smart guy, so he probably knows, like, okay, my house is broken into, but overall, burglaries are down. Is Trump actually going to how much damage could he actually do? In other words, since the system. Okay, Eric's question is long, so I'm going to read it out loud because this won't be. The questions in the chat won't be in the stream that will be available. So the question is, if Trump actually got elected, how much damage could he actually do? In other words, since the system is designed to prevent dictators, how effective would it be at stopping him? There are certain things that he would be able to do. He's said that he wants to expand the use of Guantanamo and use it for more than just enemy combatants. Depending on what his definition of that is, he would be able to do that. Would he be able to put U.S. citizens in there? No, I think people would stop that in its tracks. He might try, but they would stop it. He has little to, the president has little to zero control over trade. He can try to get Congress to increase or decrease tariffs, but he himself has very little to do except for emergency situations like a blockade or something like that. But he has very little control over imports or exports. He has no control over the price of oil. He can suggest to Congress what tax plans they should enact. They don't have to listen to him. Odds are, if he tried to impose his tax plan, Congress would be like, this is way... Trump's tax plan is to lower taxes for everybody, which would be great for my personal wallet and your personal wallet, but it would be horrible for the country, and everybody who's done an analysis on it says it would be horrible for the country. So there's very little chance Congress would pass it, because it would just lower taxes so much that the country would go bankrupt, so it wouldn't work. He can unilaterally do some things with the military for a short period of time. He has like 36 hours of control before he has to ask for permission. So he could do some damage there. But honestly, my worst fear of a Trump presidency is what he has done already. He's made it okay to be an open racist and sexist. It wasn't okay 5 years ago. If you were a racist, it was like, come on, it's 2007, get over it, or whatever year it was. And he's made it okay to be a racist again. And if he's president, I really, really fear that we will be taking a huge step back. We were doing so well. I mean, racism wasn't gone by any means, but we were doing pretty well, and him coming along is a huge step backwards. And for sexism as well, we were just starting to address the sex assault issues. Women were finally starting to get their equal pay. They're still not there, but we were starting to address that issue, and Trump came along and all of that stopped. And if he becomes president, it's just going to set us back several more decades, because even if we get him out after 4 or 8 years, it's going to take another generation to get those people who grew up under Trump and think this is normal to deprogram that. And that's my biggest fear, is the social consequences of Trump being a president. What he has taught American people is okay now, or to just lie about things. Especially in this digital age, how he can lie about things when faced with a thing of him saying the exact opposite, it boggles my mind. I don't understand it. In fact, I was sent a video earlier, let me find it, of things that he said during the last debate versus several years before, and blows my mind. It blows my mind that he's able to say these things. Here it is. But yeah, what really scares me while this is loading, it really scares me what he's done socially to this country. You know, even if you're 50 or 60 years old, you should know it's not okay to be racist. You know, if you are, keep it to yourself like you have been for the last 40 years. You don't need to come out with it. It's okay to be a closet racist if that's what you want to do with your life. But don't bring it back. You know, we were doing so well. Alright, now I think I've got this up. Maybe. Okay, give me a second here to show it. Window capture. Oh, did I close all of it? I did. Give me a second, I apologize.
I'd like to talk about someone that you know very well, Hillary Clinton.
I think she's a wonderful woman. I think that she's a little bit misunderstood. You know, Hillary's a very...
Okay, so these are things that he said in 2008. Let me make sure I'm on top here because I'm the star. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so these are things he said in 2008 versus what he said during the debate last week. So let's start over from the beginning.
Talk about someone that you know very well, Hillary Clinton.
I think she's a wonderful woman. I think that she's a little bit misunderstood. You know, Hillary's a very smart woman, very tough woman. That's fine. But she's also a very nice person. I think she's going to go down at a minimum as a great senator. I think she is a great wife to a president. And I think Bill Clinton was a great president. A lot of people hated him because they were jealous as hell. Bill Clinton was a great president. Hillary Clinton is a great woman and a good woman. She has tremendous hate in her heart. Bill Clinton was abusive to women. Hillary Clinton attacked those same women. She's a fighter. I disagree with much of what she's fighting for. I do disagree with her judgment in many cases. But she does fight hard, and she doesn't quit, and she doesn't give up, and I consider that to be a very good trait.
So there you go. All right. He's changed his opinions on her quite a bit. I mean, a 180, really, if you think about it. You know, he was a great president. She's a great woman, too. She's the most evil that could ever have eviled. I have a hard time with that. As Pikachu brought up, they both lie. Yes, absolutely. But one of these people lies way more than the other. When Clinton lies, it's something that I expect. She lies in ways that a politician lies, if that makes sense. You know, first of all, I haven't seen anything where it's like absolute 100% headline news lie. I haven't seen anything like that yet. Her lies are usually like mostly true, mostly false, something like that. When Trump lies, it's we have a video of you saying the sky is green. No, you don't. We do, though. It's right here. Do you want to see? No, it's not. It doesn't exist. Lies. And it's like his lies make Clinton's lies nothing at all. They're just normal politician type lies, I guess. When I watch Clinton speak, even when I hear something and I'm like, that's not really the case, that's what I expect out of most politicians. I mean, Obama, Bush, Bill Clinton, Kerry, Gore, all of them, they all, little lies, little politician lies. Trump, though, is just massive lies. Lies about, when he said that he didn't say go check out that sex tape. When we have, the moment he said that, that tweet was retweeted like 20,000 times or something, where he says, check out sex tape. How he can say I didn't say that when check out sex tape, it's there, so there you go. Yeah. So if you guys have any other further questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I feel like this is a good time to end it. I am looking for ideas. I'll end on this note. I am looking for ideas on things that you want me to explain before the election. Okay? So if there are any topics that came up during the election, please leave them in the comments below, because the chat will not exist once the stream is over. So that'll disappear, but the comments will remain. So if there's anything that came up during the debate, or anything else really that you want explained in a non-partisan way, please put those down below. Other than that, thanks for sticking with me. I might stream again if there's enough popular demand on election night. But follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, on Reddit. Yeah, other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed my commentary, and I hope you know a little better.